I'm happy to talk to you as long as you don't have responsibilities, but if it would make more sense to maybe, I don't know, grab a coffee or a drink sometime instead of,
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your name again?
Todd.
Todd. Okay.
Yes. I'll take your info and then I'll let you get back to your work because I don't want to get you in trouble or anything. In your first week, that'd be bad,
No,
right?
I would appreciate it.
So I'm going to show you that entire interaction at the end of this video, but a little spoiler. There's something very special, very unique about that interaction as compared to other cold approaches you might see, and that is this. That girl was working at the time of the interaction. Most guys will not do an approach like that, and this is a huge mistake because you're missing a tremendous opportunity. As you get good at game, one of the hardest things is actually finding an abundance of attractive girls. Meanwhile, there are tons of girls sitting around at work bored who would love to talk to you. And even more to the point, there are plenty of jobs where the girls are specifically hired in part because they are attractive. If you can learn to attract these girls who are professionally hot, it opens up a whole new world of opportunity. So in this video, I'm going to give you my step-by-step system to meet those hot girls who are busy doing hot girl jobs. When a girl is at work, a lot of things are exactly the same as any other scenario in game, but a few things are very critically different, and this dramatically changes your approach. Fundamentally, a girl is a girl is a girl, and if you're an attractive guy and you have a good interaction, she's going to be attracted. Attraction is not a choice. However, when a girl is working, she is in a different headspace, she's in a different scenario, she has different incentives, she has situations where she could get in trouble for talking to you, and she may even have rules about giving her number to people at work depending on what her job is. So these are all things you need to navigate if you want to be successful approaching these types of hot girls. Principle number 1, get out of the customer frame. If the girl is treating you like the next customer, she is not in the right headspace for you to start a romantic connection with her. In fact, even if she is attracted to you, she might feel very awkward about making a move or expressing that attraction, because if you haven't indicated that you're interested too, if you haven't indicated you're not a customer, she would feel very unprofessional hitting on you or flirting with you in any way. And not only would that be very embarrassing for her, she could potentially lose her job over it if she was seen to be doing that. So you need to make it very clear to her that you are not in the customer frame, you're not the next customer, so that it's appropriate for her to start interacting with you as an individual, as a human being, as a man, as opposed to as someone she's trying to sell a shirt or a car or some alcohol to. One of the earliest and best examples of this principle of getting out of the customer frame came from one of my earliest mentors in game, who was very obsessed with meeting strippers. And so he would go to strip clubs and he would try to talk to them. And the problem is that a stripper in a strip club has a very specific frame, and that frame is very much the opposite of a frame you'd like to have in a cold approach. In a cold approach, you'd like to have the frame that the girl is chasing you and you're high value. In a strip club, the frame is the girl's sex is at a premium and something that the man would be paying for. And you need to flip that script, because as long as you're in that customer frame of the paying for sex, paying for a lap dance, being treated as a mark to be, have money sucked out of you, that's not going to be a very good position to be in. And so this mentor of mine, he would do a lot of things early on to take the girl out of that stripper frame very early on. Like, for example, when they did a particularly fake kind of stripper behavior, he'd call them out on it and be like, oh my God, that was really transparent. I'd be like, wow, you're really good at your job. Your boss must be very proud of you. Right? And he would point out these things and call her attention to it and make her kind of self-conscious about it. And in particular, strippers have a lot of things they'll do, like they'll touch you to try and make you like them more or to try and get you aroused. And he would point it out and be like, oh my God, you're doing that touching thing again. Hey, hands off the merchandise. So in doing these things, he's taking the stripper out of her normal reality. He's setting up a different sort of a scenario. And so at a certain point, if she continues to interact with him, she's interacting not with the idea that I'm going to get money from this person, but with this idea that I'm interacting with this human being. And a lot of times, because she'd been teased, because there's some devalidation going on, she would actually be trying to get her frame back. She'd be trying to justify herself. And at least for a window of time, she's acting like a woman who wants attention and wants validation from a man, as opposed to a stripper who wants a man to pay her for a lap dance. But that would only give a small window of time. The second step in the process would be to actually encourage the girl to leave at moments when she doesn't want to leave. So at moments where it's a high point in the interaction or she wants to validate herself, you might say things like, oh, if you need to run along and make money for your boss, you totally can. It's fine, I'll be good. Right? And she's like, no, I'm good for a minute. Or no, I work for myself, I don't have a boss. And by doing this, she's justifying staying with you, and she's really accentuating the fact that she's there with you, not specifically to make money. Another part of this that should be obvious, if you want to stay out of the customer frame, you also probably shouldn't actively be a customer. So buying a lap dance from a stripper can be problematic. If you're shopping and you're actively looking at a bunch of clothing or a bunch of electronics or something like that, that can present a problem because now there's kind of a mixed frame going on. Principle number 2, utilize your advantages. When a girl is at work, you do have certain disadvantages. You have the disadvantage that she's in a customer frame. You have the disadvantage that she may get called away by customers aside from you and have to do work. You have the disadvantage that she may be judged by her coworkers, or it may be an environment where she's not supposed to be interacting or flirting. You have plenty of disadvantages, but you do have one incredible advantage, which is that these very hot girls that you'd normally have to cold approach and who might not even be that easy to open on a cold approach if they're very hot, have to interact with you. They have to start the conversation with you, so you get to be in a conversation where you didn't have to do the opener. And if you've watched any of my material, you'll know that the two worst parts of game as far as frame are the open and the close, because those are the parts where we have to give a little bit of value away. So if you can get into the interaction without having to open, that is a huge bonus. Let me give you an example. Back when I was in college and just learning structured game, me and my wingman, after going out one night, we went to a Denny's. And it just so happened, it being a college town, that the waitress at the Denny's was a college girl who was actually very, very hot. Like literally one of the hottest girls in town was a waitress at Denny's. I know it sounds crazy, but this actually happened. And the beautiful thing about this was she came over to take my order and I did not have to start a conversation with her. In doing the ordering process, I was able to tease her a little bit, and then when she kind of wanted to continue the conversation, wanted to get revalidated from the tease, I kind of went back to the conversation with my wingman, ignored her for a minute, and she had to go away. But guess what? She had to come back because she has to take your order, she has to bring the food, and she has to bring the check. So when she brought the food, I got to tease her and have a little more dialogue, build a little more comfort, but then I got to tease her, leave it on a high note, and end the conversation first, knowing that for a third time, she was gonna have to come back to give the check, and only on that third time, when it was the last time she was gonna come back, did I build a little more connection, let her know I liked her a bit, and go ahead and exchange numbers with her to move things forward. So I had her opening me, her coming back, and her coming back again, and those were things that needed to happen. So unlike in a normal cold approach where I have to do things to keep her attention and keep her there, I could do the opposite. I could dismiss her, I could ignore her, and she's gonna come back a couple times. And I use this fact to my advantage to build massive tension, massive dismissiveness, and get a phone number from a girl who at the time was one of the hottest girls I had ever gotten a phone number from. Principle number 3, manage the interaction in a way that will not get the girl in trouble. Let me illustrate this one with a story. Again, early on in my days of learning game, I was college aged and I was starting to be pretty good at getting attraction. And about that time, Abercrombie & Fitch had some of the hottest girls working in their stores at malls throughout the country. And I did game at malls a lot. So I would routinely go into these Abercrombie & Fitch stores because I thought the girls there were really, really hot. I'd start talking to them, I'd start flirting with them, and they would start giggling and loving me and being flustered and qualifying themselves, and I'd be thinking, oh my God, this girl's so hot, it's going so well. And then right at the moment when things are going incredibly well, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe how hot this girl is and how much she likes me, her coworker would come and be like, hey Melissa, we need you in the back room, and she'd be taken to the back room, never to be seen again. And this happened not once, not twice, but over and over again, and it was so frustrating because these girls were so hot, they clearly liked me, and they were just whisked away from me right at the moment when I was gonna close them and gonna take it somewhere. So what did I do? I adapted. I learned a solution to the problem. As soon as the interaction was going really, really well and the girl was very bought in, I would actually say, hey, listen, I know you're working, I don't want you to get in trouble, so why don't you pretend to sell me this shirt just so it looks to your boss like you're doing a really good job. And then we'd occasionally look at some clothing items while I was talking to her and flirting with her, and it looked like she was doing a good job of treating me as a customer and selling me things to anybody looking from the outside. And if anything, her flirting with me was in order to get me to buy things, not because she was slutty or violating the parameters of her job or anything like that. And then finally, I was able to actually close these interactions without having the coworker drag her away from me. Now, I do want to make an important distinction, because I just told you to act like you're buying something at the store, whereas in the previous point, I just told you don't fall into the customer frame. There's a very critical distinction here, which is in this case, you and the girl are on the same page. You're basically saying, hey, listen, I'm not actually buying this shirt. I just want you to pretend to sell it to me so you don't get in trouble. You're actually making her a co-conspirator in getting out of the customer frame, which is incredibly valuable. Principle number 4, which is a lot like principle number 3. Principle number 3 was manage the interaction in a way that won't get her in trouble. Principle 4 is close in a way that won't get her in trouble. Because sometimes a girl taking out her phone or doing something like that in the middle of doing her job can be a problem. Good example of this would be bottle service girls in Vegas. I lived in Vegas for a couple years and I met and picked up a lot of bottle service girls, both actually outside of the club occasionally when I met them because they were just very hot and they were out in life, but occasionally actually while they were working. And the first couple of times I did this in the club, I ran into a problem, which was the girl didn't want to give me her number and have me blatantly take out my phone and put it in because there are cameras on them and they're being watched. And so what I had to do was I had to say, actually, you know what, just tell me your number and I'll remember it. And then I memorized the number, and then once they left, I would write it down in my phone. So I had to do something to keep them from getting into trouble. And I've done this in various other ways. Another common one that I do is maybe I'll have someone who's working in a store write their number on the back of a receipt or something like that. But you want to be cognizant of their experience and cognizant of not getting them in trouble. If you're doing the entire interaction with coworkers nearby, you may need to pick kind of a side topic, find some topic of interest between the two of you, and you can say, hey, give me your contact information, I'll send you some information about that topic. So it doesn't look to her coworkers, at least ostensibly, like you're picking her up for a romantic purpose. Again, you have to manage the situation so she won't get in trouble. And if you can do that, and if you can show her that you understand that, it actually shows a lot of social intelligence and is actually quite attractive. And that brings us to principle number 5, which is a strategic point. In these interactions where the girl is at work, most of the time you're going to be getting a number. In most interactions, obviously, I prefer you go for a pull or an instant date or something like that. In a case where the girl's at work, it's unlikely that's going to happen. That should be fairly obvious, and that should be a part of your strategy baked in. However, don't completely preclude it because you never know. It doesn't hurt to ask the girl when she gets off work, and it doesn't hurt to make plans for afterwards. I've definitely had situations where meeting a girl at work, she was free afterwards, and maybe even was getting off work soon, and it worked out in a very good manner. I'll give you a couple very good examples of this. First example of this was when I was actually playing poker professionally. I was at the casino, I had a lot of chips in front of me, and a new cocktail waitress I had never seen came by, and she was like, giving drinks to our table and that kind of stuff. And we had a particularly obnoxious kind of guy at the table who was being annoying about his order. And I kind of looked at her, made eye contact, and we rolled our eyes together at like what the guy was doing. And we kind of shared a moment. So then the next time she came by and I wasn't in a hand, I kind of pulled her over and talked to her and, did sort of normal game for a minute or two. And once we'd had kind of a flirtatious moment, we were on good terms, I asked her kind of when her shift was over, what her day looked like. And it turned out she was getting off like 7 hours from there or something like that. And I basically told her, look, I'm down massively in this game. It was like $5,000, I think, or something like that. But if I somehow get even or ahead, do you want to go out and celebrate? I'm being honest with you, if I'm still losing, I'm probably just going to go home and sleep and hate life. But if I happen to get even, do you want to go grab dinner? And she's like, yeah, sure. Right? And it's kind of like a baller move. It's like, hey, if I make $5,000 in the next 7 hours, will we get dinner? Is kind of an interesting card to play. But for the purposes of this video, the important point is I found out about her schedule, and guess what? I was able to fake getting even. I went and bought more chips and put them on the table. I actually won most of it back, and then I got enough chips that I left with this huge heaping stack of chips. I talked to her afterwards, and we agreed plans. We didn't actually end up meeting right then and there. We actually did agree plans because I was exhausted, but we ended up meeting up the next day. However, she actually would have been down to meet up then and there if I wasn't absolutely dead dog tired. Second example, an even more unlikely scenario for this, I was actually at a strip club. And to my credit, it was actually on an off night, and this is another key point. If you are going to talk to people like bartenders, strippers, cocktail waitresses, doing it on a Friday or Saturday night when they're totally swamped with work is not a good time. Doing it on a Tuesday or Wednesday night when they're wide open and there's barely anybody in the bar is a much better time. But anyway, this was an off night, and I was talking to this girl, and she was kind of frustrated with how few people were in there, and I kind of inquired when she could get off her shift, and she said she had to go make a certain amount of money, go make a certain amount of tips, and then she'd be done. And so I basically said, okay, go do that, and then let's give me your number, and then let's meet up if it's early enough. And lo and behold, we exchanged numbers, and then an hour and a half or so later, she told me a place to meet her near the strip club. She left, got her car, came and picked me and my friend up and took us to breakfast, and then things went very swimmingly from there. She went back to our hotel room. So the point is this. Most of the time you're just getting a number, but just because that's the case, when things do fall in your favor, don't preclude meeting the girl when she gets off work. You never know, these things can happen, and to miss that opportunity would just be silly. So without further ado, let's look at some footage of me putting these principles into action.
I'm good.
So first point, before the open, what happened? She opened me. She said, how are you? She's just being friendly, she's doing customer service, but again, I didn't have to open. Remember, this is a huge advantage you have in these situations.
I was very amused that you were counting the watches.
Yeah, well, I just added a bunch of new ones, so.
I thought you had to figure out how many were stolen this, in the last.
I would hope none, but it's holiday season.
I mean, under your watchful eye, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody would dare. You look dangerous.
Yes, I know.
So here we are talking about her doing her job, but I am making it personal. The conversation is about her and her being dangerous, not about her doing her job, and certainly not about me buying anything.
very intimidating.
Incredibly. I was going to myself, but then, number one, you here, and number two, you're looking directly at him. I'll have to steal something else now.
Yeah.
Is this your store? Or you just work here?
I just work here. I actually just started this past week, so.
Okay, that's exciting.
New, yeah.
Now, this may seem like I'm just making conversation, but this particular question, is this your store or you just work here? The reason I'm asking that is I want to know how much flexibility she has. So if she just works there, she has, a watchful eye of someone, or she's beholden to someone, and she could get in trouble. If she owns the store and she decides that I am worth more than running her store for that moment, she can let some customers languish for a minute and nobody's going to have a problem with it. So actually, when it's the girl's store, when she owns the place, she has a lot more freedom, a lot more liberty to interact with you for longer, and she can kind of forego making some money in order to talk to you, whereas when she works at the store, she'll get in more trouble, which is kind of weird. You'd think it'd be the opposite. They have more incentive to make money for themselves, but that's not how it works out. If the girl thinks of you as high value, she's much more willing to give up on making money. But when there's an actual consequence of getting in trouble or getting fired, that's when she won't. So the reason I asked this question is I wanted to find out how much liberty she has to keep talking to me if customers did come into the store. Oh, and another point that you don't see during this is this actually happened when there weren't other customers in the store. This was sort of intentional, sort of unintentional, but it does make the point that when the girl's not occupied, it's a much better time.
Oh yeah, really nice.
All right.
So far, so good, I think.
So far,
Yeah.
you don't hate it?
I don't hate it so far. It's pretty mellow.
You have a very expressive face.
Thank you.
And again, making it about her, not about work, and doing it in a flirty way.
You say a lot with,
Thank you.
What is your name? It's nice to meet you. I'm Todd.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet
You
you.
seem like you could be an interesting person. I mean, I've known you for 30 seconds, so
No,
let's not rush it, but
People tend to think I'm interesting.
Wow.
And so this is just from a game perspective. She's now qualifying herself to me, so things are going very, very well at this point.
And modest as well, probably.
Yeah.
I'm getting
I'm
that
actually
vibe.
not from here. I'm actually
Okay. So you're politely dangerous.
a little bit, yeah.
Fair. I'm not from here either, so.
Oh, where are you from?
And so again, qualifying herself to me a lot. And the reason I point this out in this context is that, again, I'm gonna likely have a time constrained situation. If customers come in, she may have to tend to them. So it's important that I note she is at a point where she could be closed if necessary. So the interaction has proceeded far enough that if I needed to get a number, I pretty much could now. And so I'm not gonna do it right now, but if customers come in, if I notice that the interaction might be shortened because of her having to work, I'm going to close and take care of that before she gets distracted or pulled away.
Originally Colorado, but I don't live here. I travel all the time.
And so now we have a customer in the store. So this changes things.
So,
You travel for work or just cause?
no, not anymore.
But she didn't go attend to the customer, she stayed and talked to me. That's a good sign.
So I don't want to distract you from your duties, but I do find you intriguing. So I'm at a little impasse right now.
So here I pointed out to her that if she needs to do her work, she can. I gauged her reaction. And I'm kind of setting up to close if she needs to deal with her customers.
What's your story when you're not working? Like, you go to school, or you're a big
I
grown
want
up?
to go back to school, but currently not on the agenda. Just, working here and surviving. It's
Surviving, right?
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. Well, I'm happy to talk to you as long as you don't have responsibilities, but if it would make more sense to maybe, I don't know, grab a coffee or a drink sometime instead of,
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your name again?
Todd.
Todd. Okay.
Yes. I'll take your info and then I'll let you get back to your work because I don't want to get you in trouble, right? In your first week, that'd be bad, right?
I would appreciate it.
And it's pretty academic from here, but you can see how I managed the situation, the fact that she was at work and did it in a way where she couldn't get in trouble, kept it fun for her, but once there was a time constraint, I made it brief, I got to the point, and I let her get back to her job. So I do want to end with one little caveat, which is this: don't shit where you eat. If you're going to go to the same place over and over and over again, don't start talking to all the girls that work in that place, because you will get a reputation and they will talk, they will bump into each other. If you are going to talk to girls that work somewhere, pick one Talk to that one and then understand that in talking to that one, you've killed the rest of the venue for yourself to some extent, right? So if there's a cocktail waitress at your favorite bar, you have a choice, go to that bar and pick up the girls that go to that bar, or you have a choice of picking up the cocktail waitress. Pick one or the other, because you're not gonna be able to do both. You can't be dating the cocktail waitress and hitting on all the girls in her bar. So be very careful about what you choose. This is kind of like the same thing of where you might not want to pick up a girl that lives in your apartment because you're bringing other girls back and it could be awkward. Just be smart about that. But if you can do this with intelligence, talking to these girls who are professionally hot, who are working, is a tremendous untapped resource, and it's not actually that hard. In fact, in some ways, these interactions are easier because they're gonna open you. You only have to be charismatic for a short time because you're gonna be constrained to a short interaction anyway, and you get a number, you bounce, you set up a date. So it's funny that if you just have a decent opening game and you're kind of able to get some attraction and you know the strategy, you can actually pick up some of the hottest girls in the world. One final point. If you are a beginner, you may not effectively pick up these girls, but you should absolutely talk to them. When I was first learning to talk to girls and approach girls, and I was terrified to do a cold approach, you know what I did? I went to the mall and I talked to the girls that were working there. And you know what? I didn't hit on them. I didn't make it man to woman, but at least I went and talked to some girls. And it was a great way to get over approach anxiety. You could use this to get over approach anxiety. You could also use this as a warm-up. Go talk to some girls that are gonna be friendly, that are gonna talk to you, and then go talk to the girls you're actually gonna hit on later. So even as a beginner, even if you don't think you have the game to pick up these really hot girls, it's a great way to get experience and practice. Okay, that's it. That was my final point. Go put this in practice. I'll talk to you later.